As the old saying goes, football is a game that's won in the trenches. And for North Carolina, it's no different this year, as there's a big question mark of who in the world is going to step up on the D line. What's going on, Tar Heel Nation? My name is Nathan. I am one half of your Hill Brothers, and fall camp is officially upon us. We are a couple of days in to the 2025 fall camp, first under Bill Belichick after the entire North Carolina athletic department and football program has been reshaped over the last 6 to 7, 8 months now. And now we are finally at the time where we can start asking some questions and start to see some answers. And one of the biggest ones I think that Carolina's had coming into this fall camp here is who in the world is going to step up for North Carolina on the defensive line. They are replacing basically everybody on the D-line from last year, and really a D-line that's been fairly the same over the last multiple seasons for North Carolina. Guys like Jabari Ritzie and Kamen Rucker leaving for no longer having eligibility. Des Evans as well. Josh Harris gone as well. Jacoby Cowan gone. And there has been such a turnover in that room, which leaves a massive question for North Carolina moving forward. A lot of their young guys even hit the portal as well early on after Bill Belichick was announced as the head coach, and even before then. So Bill and Lombardi, when they came into Carolina, had a big hole that they had to fill there, and that being both sides of the football, really in the trenches, but defensive line being one of the biggest, because Carolina has had some great offenses over the last few years, to say the least. You know, guys like Drake May and Sam Howell leading your offenses. You know, teams with some great running backs: Amarian Hampton, Javonte Williams, Ty Chandler, Michael Carter as well. Toss all those in there. Even the year with Elijah Green, the first year under Drake May. I mean, he was running his little tail off as well. But Carolina has not had a stout defensive line in quite some time, and it has been the defensive line and the defense as a whole, really, but primarily the D-line, that has been the sore spot for North Carolina for a very, very long time. We're talking probably, 25, 30 years. Even the 2015 year, you could cover people, but you couldn't stop the run. So, and we all remember Baylor running all over North Carolina in that 2015 bowl game. But this season, with Steve Belichick coming in as a defensive coordinator, Steve Belichick has got a track record last year taking Washington's defense after they lost a ton of players from going to the national championship 2 seasons ago, and took that team and really made the identity of Washington be the defense. Their offense was extremely bad last year, but their defense was really, really good. And it was a team that was, I think it was top 30 in the country. And now that he's come in, my question is, with all the transfers that you've had, and you've had a ton from all over the place, you've had some commits that came in late for North Carolina, some that were already committed to coming to North Carolina. You picked up some transfers from all over the country, guys like Price Yates out of UConn, CJ Mims, East Carolina, Joseph Mapoyi, and I think I'm saying that right, out of Penn State. You've had Melcart. I'm not even going to try and say his last name. I just know that he looks cool, and I can't wait to see him, number 9, out of Delaware with the Blue Hens. You've had a ton. Dante Robinson from, I believe he's from Florida. You've had people come from everywhere, all over the country, to North Carolina on that D-line room. And now the question is, how are they going to sort out and who's going to be at the front of that? And clearly, I think there are a few front runners, to say the least, but this is honestly a time of year where, since we're so early in the fall camp, we don't really know. And the cool thing is that we can continue this conversation and all the way up until September 1st, when you go up against TCU and you seize on that front D line. But I just want to break down some things from last season that Belichick. Both Belichick, Steve and Bill, are going to have to address with this defensive line. So last year, North Carolina allowed rushing yards 1,943 on this season. That is an average of about 149.5 yards per game. That was 3.9 yards per carry, which was ninth in the ACC. Now here's a crazy stat. In the second half of games and OT, they allowed up to 4.22 yards per carry. Carolina couldn't stop the run to save their life. Don't believe me? Go watch the last few minutes of the Georgia Tech game when, what was it, Jamal Haynes or somebody just broke a 70-yard run against the Tar Heels right up the gut to seal that game. Also, go look at the number 0, what was his name, Desmond Reed or something of that nature, from Pittsburgh last year, just gashing us like crazy. JMU doing the same thing. The Duke team with the star player, I forget his first name, but his last name was Star, or it was Star Thomas, something of that nature. He gashed us last year. Carolina could not stop the run to save their lives. Did better in the sack department last year. There was a couple of good games from Jahvaree Ritzie, who had a breakout season. But considering the talent level that North Carolina lost, right, and the production that it lost, considering these stats, and this may be somewhat of a hot take, in my opinion, I could be completely wrong. I'm just saying that up front and center now. I'm not a football coach. I'm just saying, with what you lost, how hard could it be to possibly retain the same type of level of production there? Carolina has been inconsistent, to say the least, over the last few years. We've always talked about the defense over the last few years, it being a sore spot for Carolina, being one of the worst in the country. We talk about the DBs missing assignments and plays, and there always been a shot downfield. Well, there's a couple of things that attribute to that. One of them being that the defensive line can't get off the hoof, and they can't get to the quarterback or put pressure on a quarterback or get the quarterback scrambling, doing anything, any type of pressure that would allow for the DBs being left out on an island for however long, to that time to be shortened. You see what I'm saying? So with Carolina bringing in guys like a CJ Mims, a very, very good player at East Carolina, Joseph McCoy, he's a guy who's played on a stout defensive line at Penn State. Bryce Yates, a guy who was playing outside of his mind last year. Unfortunately, I think he had some injuries as well, but came against North Carolina and just lit him up. Was the MVP of the Fenway Bowl, and then 5 minutes later he was a Tar Heel. A guy like Melcart, who has that high energy, high motor coming with him, and Dante Robinson, who's played for Florida. We've got some. Carolina brought in some pretty, not starting level power 4 guys like McCoy and Dante Robinson. They weren't starters out there, but they were good rotation pieces for the teams that they played for. And they played on some very successful teams. Florida ended up having some success later on in the year, partly because of their defense, and then also having a quarterback like DJ Lagway as well. So with Carolina bringing in guys like Smith Vilbert as well, Carolina added some names in here, and now it's just all about flushing them out. Do we know exactly who is going to be on that defensive line? No, not yet, not currently, not as we see. But with the bodies that Carolina was able to bring in, with Belichick going out there and bringing some of these guys in, I feel fairly confident enough to say that I think that Carolina and Belichick could very well bring in this squad of talent being better than what we originally had. Now, a lot of this stuff is we have to see, and this is a time that Carolina needs to change the culture. We're going to be talking about that a little throughout this fall camp series, about changing the culture. And with the guys that they've brought in, I like the attitude of them better than most of the guys that we had beforehand. Just to leave it that way. I like where Carolina went with the players that they got. I know they're not the big splashy signees, if you will, outside of maybe one or two. But for the most part, Carolina filled in some holes with some guys that are, yes, unproven to a certain degree, and they're going to have to prove it on the field. But I feel confident enough that as a unit, these guys can come together. So I'm curious to see who's going to be starting on the defensive line for North Carolina. I'd like to hear what you guys think down there below. What do you guys think about the transfers that came in? And is it too early to tell? Do we know yet? Or is it going to be something that could very well come all the way down to September 1st? Currently, right now, I don't have a starting lineup for you guys when it comes to that D-line because it is very, it can definitely vary, to say the least. Who's going to be on the edge? Who's going to be on the inside? I have a feeling a guy like a CJ Mims is going to be on that D-line starting. Maybe probably Dante Robinson, Price Yates, Melcart will probably be a backup to Yates. We'll see. I think Joseph Apoyi, the Penn State transfer, will probably be out there. And then there's some guys out there that could be battling for some spots. So I'm excited to see what's going to be happening with the defensive line. And for Steve Belichick and this Tar Heel defense, they've got to get this thing right. Because if they don't, Carolina will be a good defense again this year. That's just how the cookie crumbles. We can have a great secondary. We can, and looks like we got some pretty doggone nice pieces back there as well, along with Marcus Allen, Thad Dixon, all that good stuff. Some linebackers, which looks pretty daggum good itself. We may be talking about them a little later on this week. But if that defensive line ain't right, then Carolina will be able to stop nobody because they're just going to line the ball up and run it down throats. And considering that Carolina has been able to get by with the stats that I gave you, I feel confident enough to say, I think they could at least do that. I can say that I don't think they'll be worse than what we've had. You obviously you miss a guy like a Kamen Rucker, but because that dude's just freaking an animal. But for the most part, I like what Carolina's brought in defensive line wise, and I'm going to be keeping an eye on this battle because it has to be done right. You got to get it right. This will be the lifeline for North Carolina this year, is going to be that D-line. Considering we don't know what the offense is going to be like. The offensive line is going to be the same type of conversation, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on as well. But this defensive line is going to be the lifeline for North Carolina because I think offensively, Carolina is going to have enough to be able to go score some points. I think they're going to be able to. I think they'll be a better offense than even what they were last year. Or either that or very similar, at least. I could be completely off on that. They could be a whole heck of a lot better. I really hope that they are. But I think Carolina will be enough to be kind of similar to what they were last year, if not even better. And that's not, not seeing them yet, of course. But if Carolina can, get themselves right defensively a little bit better than what they have been, then instead of 9th in the ACC, maybe you're 5th in the or 6th in the ACC or something like 7th in the ACC, something a little bit better. Carolina's going to have a shot to go win a good number of ball games considering the schedule that they have. So I'm curious to see what's going to be happening here over the next few weeks as this thing gets flushed out. Hopefully you guys are as well. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. And hopefully, soon we will start seeing names reoccurring in the starters role. So I'm excited. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for being here. And as always,